We're not starting just yet, but as I'm here and you're all here, it's a good chance to have a few, like a Q&A session. So if there's anyone wants to ask me about the Apache Flex SDK, ask me.
Or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, question in front of you.
What is the rough amount of time it should take for those of us to want to force 6 SDK to get? Is it a day's work?
Sorry, the question was whether or not how long it takes to move from the 4.6 SDK to one of the more recent versions of the SDK. There's not a lot of work involved. It really is a one-to-one project replacement. There have been a couple of minor changes that may trip you up if you don't know about, but you're probably unlikely to encounter. There was a change which actually Adobe did to the data grid involving headers in database. But it's you only notice it under very unusual circumstances. They've actually improved it and then, something's there. So if your code did have workarounds and bugs that already existed in the SDK, you might have to take that out. If your code included monkey patches, you might find that the monkey patches have to be rewritten, or that they're embedded, they've already been fixed and you can remove them. So, but it's not a lot of effort to do for a moment. It's certainly far easier to say go from 4.6 to 4.12 than it is to say to go from Flex 3 to Flex 4. Because that's a large amount of effort. Yeah.
Is there any one plan for some of the other components? Like I know you guys, I think there was like a Spark alert and some other things.
Yep.
Is there any more plans for making some of the other older components Spark, like the advanced integrated? Is that on the list?
There are always plans. Whether or not someone actually steps up and does it is another thing. Because the Apache organization is a volunteer organization. People work on what they actually need. There is actually less reason to try and
No worries.
sorry, John. So there may actually be less reason to use Spark than MX components. Spark, if you like the Spark skinny, that's one reason to use them. But why Adobe was moving towards Spark was because all their tooling was based on producing Spark style components like Catalyst, for example. Now none of that tooling exists, and in fact they removed a lot of it from Photoshop and Illustrator and so forth. So maybe there's not so much a compelling reason to have to use Spark these days. You can use each unless you like the skinning, which some people have. No, that's not Spark versus. You can use in general the Spark uses the newer TL11 text rendering, but what you're trying to do really. But there are a couple other Spark versions of stuff that have been added, and it's certainly not a complete feature set. I don't think anyone would ever come up with a Spark against Maverick. I think that'd just be too much work. Unfortunately. Any other questions? Just have to wait for these other guys to finish. Just stand here and listen.
So Spark, help me understand again, there was the Spark engine.
Well, there's two component sets inside Apache. One is the MX set, and the other is the Spark set. So the ones that start with S, the name is MX. And they're internally they're quite different. But for example, the Spark data grid is not as fully functional as the MX advanced data grid. Performance-wise also, the MX data grid and the MX advanced data grid have seen significant improvements from 4.6 to 4.12. In some cases, some operations are orders of magnitude faster. Horizontal scrolling, for example, is orders of magnitude faster. The Spark data grid has had some performance improvements, but nothing as dramatic as the MX ones. So you might, if you've got, if your application is trying to do a lot of data grid and you want that performance and speed, you may actually consider using the MX one rather than the Spark one. You may, Yes, another question. Yeah, you basically have another one. It's the best. I'm not the best person to answer. Answer this.
Let's just talk about basically plot that.
Because the component of the Flex.js, it's not a one-to-one mapping to the components. Yes, there is a label. Yes, there is a texting point, but they're not going to be exactly the same as what they were in Flex. They're not going to have all the same properties. They're not going to have. Maybe initially they might have all the same features as well, but they'll slowly get added over time. You'll have to rewrite some of your application to make it work, and you can't take MXML. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can't take MXML and put that into Flex.js. You just don't. Yeah, but if you just make global replace MX/basic, that will work either.
Well,
some of it.
It's actually make that work. That you use the regular SDK that did JavaScript.
Look, it would be a nice thing to have, but at the end of the day, that would have been a huge amount of work, and then performance-wise, it may not work well, because the whole way that the Flash player and the Flex SDK works is very, very different, and how they update the screen is very different to how JavaScript updates the screen. So you can't take a one-to-one translation and expect it to work as well. Like it may be. It would have been awful to put all that work in there and get to that point and then find nothing it doesn't. It's slow. So there was a different. This is one of those different paths taken. Yeah, I think that's you're saying that stating Flex until it's known whether or not the Flash player is going to disappear or not. I think that's a good risk. Australia at the moment, chances are the Flash players will be around in another 5 years, maybe more, maybe forever. And even if Adobe do pull the pin on it and say we're not doing this anymore, they're still going to, there's going to be a year or a few years of security updates and stuff. After that, they can just say no, we're not doing it anymore. I can't see that happening. There are too many things that still use it, and PR would be a nightmare for them. And it's not pricing as well. So I some other people have different opinions to me. I think it's a pretty low risk thing that's going to happen.
So, yeah, at one point a while ago, Flex.js was going to output both the Flash player and the
Yes, it does.
That's still
That's still the case, and it's still the plan. Yes. So what you can do is you can use your write action script. So you can write an action script, you can write classes, you can use all the testing tools that you already use in Node. You've got strong typing, all the methods in the action script. You've got developers who already use action script well. So do that, and then you can run it in the Swift. And if you run it in the Swift, it uses the Flex components. And then if you Flex style components, and then if you cross-compile to JavaScript, then it will use the JavaScript components. No, it knows that there's a button. Well, there won't be MX button, it will be basic column button. Yep.
Yeah, in the application XML, right.
Yeah, so
I was looking at the experimental namespace because a lot of the newer Spark components are still that experimental namespace. What you have to do to sort of activate that is put in image.
yeah.
XML. You see all the namespaces defined, the FX, S for Spark, MX for the MX component. What I just put in is the EXP, just my choice. Then you could add that HTTP address behind it. What happens is that the SDK knows that you want to use the experimental components, and it will offer that to you. I'll show you that in a bit. So what happens for Flex.js is that there's still another namespace defined, which kind of teaches the compiler that it's Flex.js. The basic namespace defines the way the compiler works on that file. So you get projects that are only usable in Flex.js with the Flex.js compiler. And all other projects are with the old compiler until you decide to use Velvet as a replacement. The namespaces are the way to tell which compiler you need to use and how to use it.
If later on in that file, we put an MX colon button.
Yeah,
You don't have to call it MX, by the way. You can call it whatever you want.
yeah,
It's up there, it's MX.
Yes. Yeah, you can say mix.
I want to put an MX button. Okay, that's it.
yeah, but for the experimental components,
Say you compile the same code with the SWC or JavaScript.
Yes.
as long as the components have the same name, you replace the namespace.
So it's
So we just change the definition of MX to one to experimental.
No.
The one as long as the components have the same names and expose the same properties, that works, but that's where we get into all the feature.
It just feels to me like you're doing a Kickstarter campaign or something. What amount of money would it take for 12 or 24 months for people like you guys that really know this stuff and focus on it, get it deliverable so that the rest of us don't have to completely rewrite our apps? Because it's a budget going to us either way. We're going to have to either spend money on us doing it or spend money with you guys doing it. But I'd rather just get the money and let you guys do it. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, there was some talk yesterday about
The best way is to sponsor it. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, but I can't, for instance, well, okay, you're saying sponsor computer from
But
you guys, not hire.
Right, that's what we got. I'm independent consultant. So if somebody gives me money to work on that, I'm the head of
So what I'm saying is, let's suppose we got a
I'm in that
project.
boat too.
Let's suppose we got a project together on something like Kickstarter. All the people that have enough money in their code base that they want to see this to fruition, and more importantly, expedite it with a firm timeline and stuff. Right now, you guys, the impression I get is that you guys kind of divvy up your time between revenue generating activities at yourselves, startups, or companies, and working on this project. What I'm saying is, I would be curious to know what it would take. You guys put your heads together and say, this program, here's where we need to be. What do you need? $500,000, $750,000. What do you need so that we can figure it out? I want to get there. I don't know.
I'd be really interested.
Well, it's always coming.
Something that doesn't work then. So giving you a timeline, first writing out some specifications related to what you're intended to do, what needs to be done first, parts, the compiler versus the cross compiler versus the local libraries.
But as I'm saying, could you not have the time, like, could you start planning for what it
Sure.
would take?
Yeah, that would be actually fun to do because that kind of structure is not something that's
And you'll probably get the people who are existing committers helping out as well. It's all the development would have to be done under the Apache umbrella.
I mean, you guys have a big project on it, you've got a big project, I've got a big project. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it takes that much. I mean, granted, a lot of people didn't show up to this conference. We could somehow give people a roadmap, you know. It seems like it's worth a shot. Yeah, I mean.
Well, one thing I know that's happening is Mom is working with IBM to get them to donate to Mom. That's the way that's just going to
Oh, great, I just don't trust, I mean, I deal a lot with IBM, they're my bread and butter. And I don't trust them at all, as far as how they're saying how this stuff, so.
But there's a lot of experimental products in there. So, not really incredible, but there's a whole bunch of products in these ones as well. So, have a look at that.
The whole idea of being able to take one file, add it to the motion, player, and JavaScript is not real. Oh, you're right, it's that you're specific to one or the other.
Well, it would be if these guys.
You don't have conditional file. You have compiling things. Use index and all that.
We'll talk about that. I'm sure something can be done.
I have another question real quick.
Yeah.
So they said you fixed a lot of bugs, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know, have you guys done any work on the, so back when they first did, they came up with like UI, movie clip, and some of the stuff to take Flash Pro components and put them into the Flex environment. There was a bunch of bugs that like Adobe just ignored. Like one of the huge ones was.
All the bugs that I've fixed, at least half of them are old bugs that Adobe ignored.
Okay.
So we're not just fixing new bugs, we're fixing old bugs. I'm going to do a lot of demo bug fixing now, and I'm going to fix bug at number 368, race against Flex 2. So yeah, no, there are lots of bugs in, and even in the bug base, there are lots of bugs that are marked closed and deferred, and they will never fix them. So no, we've got the whole bug base. We want to fix things. We have different priorities than what Adobe had. So it's anything that's there that's been there forever is game basically. Okay, so let's get started. Right, I've got this little program here. It's very simple. It just pops up an alert box. Oh, look at that. So this is an alert box, and it's got a lot of text, but you can see that the text actually flows out over the title and off the bottom of the thing. I've run into this bug many, many times. So I thought what I'd do is just go through what it would take to fix something like this, and also from a user point of view, how you would actually go through and find out whether this is an existing bug, whether it's known or not known, and what would be the step-by-step process to go through to get this bug fixed and enter the next release. So the first thing you would do is you would have a look through Jira. And you do a little search there. Yeah, here has a Jira account. You don't actually need an account to search, but if you want to raise a bug, you need an account. So we would search through that, just make this bigger here, and lo and behold, we find Flex 369 was Flex version, Adobe Flex SDK 2.0. When was this raised? 06. So that bug has been 8 days long or something like that. We have all this information, they're all here. At some point I went through the bug base and I marked a whole lot of bugs with these easy fix and easy test tags. If you're looking for something to help out with, they are good tags to search for. Right? If you just type it in, some of them, all it requires is someone just to test that the bug is still a bug, because we may have fixed things we don't know about it. We don't have all the time to go through absolutely every single bug and make sure that it has been fixed properly. So even just helping out with testing things is a great way to give us a hand. So I came across this bug, and I knew I'd run into it myself a few times, so I knew it actually still existed. And I said, okay, well, yeah, this is back in 4.10, it's still an issue. So now, the other good thing is if you attach sample code that actually shows the problem, because it means it's more likely that the computer is going to take it on board and try and fix it. Right? Because they can see this problem straight away. Because quite often it's hard to reproduce bugs. It's just the nature of it is. And again, we have limited time, so it's all the help that users can give us makes our life easier, and it means more likely that the bug's going to get fixed. So anyway, a while back I said, okay, yeah, that's the bug, here it is. I did actually try to fix it, But I ended up breaking something else in the SDK, and I thought, that's a bit too hard, I'll give up. But I was looking at it this morning, and I suddenly realised what the issue was. So we'll have a look at the code. Now, if you're checking the code, the SDK out, the easiest thing to do is, who is a Flash Builder user? Most people do. So I'm using Flash Builder here. So you can just check it out as a plain old Java project. You need to check it out on GitHub, but it's quite easy to do. There are instructions on how to do that on the website. And the project itself is actually broken up into multiple smaller projects. You may not realise that. But there's a frameworks directory, and underneath the frameworks directory, there's a projects directory, and this has a whole lot of directories in there. And each one of those is its own separate project and has its own little class. After you've been playing around with the SDK for a while, you can know what lives where generally. So something like the alert pop-up is probably either in framework or MX. Ends out in MX. Here's the code here. So just having a look through this code. Remember, this was written 8 years ago. Maybe longer. Let's have a look at what it's trying to do here. So you've got a text layout with some buttons down there, and there's an icon as well. So it's trying to work out how high the text needs to be. And I was looking at this morning and I sort of realised it's okay. So the buttons have to go and the unscattered lines minus the buttons. So it puts the buttons up a little bit. So they're there. And that means they actually overlap the text. And what does it set up the text field right to? It actually sets it to the explicit plane. So the answer is actually very easy. Is that you just have to take the button line. And I've got to check in there just to make sure that it's nice. So once you've made that change, how do you get that actually into the SDK? And the answer is you have to compile it yourself. Now, that sounds a bit scary. It's not actually as scary as you think. We have here in the release notes for Apache Flex, it tells you exactly how to do it. There's a little bit of setup involved, but once you've done that setup once, that's it. You don't have to worry about it ever again. So basically you need to have Ant installed. Most developers already have Ant installed, so that's generally not a problem. You need Java. Developers have Java stuff. You also need the Air integration kit. You just need to download that, unzip it, and point to the file. You need FlatLab debugger, you probably already have that. You just point at that. You also need the player globals. You may have those, but you probably have to scout around and do this somewhere. So, or you can download them. This document has links where to get absolutely everything that goes through, step by step, what to do. I'm just giving you a brief summary here. The extension manager you don't actually need unless you're making a release. And TLF home, TLF is the text layout framework, and you need to download that from GitHub and one environment as well. But once you've got all those things set up, you can actually compile the SDK. And it doesn't take too long to compile it. Just be real quick. Okay, so I'm ready here. So if I typed Ant and hit return, that will go off and compile the SDK. It takes this is a new fast machine, it takes about 5 minutes. So now, there are a few ways of making changes to the SDK and testing. This is the workflow that I've come up with. I know other people do this differently. And I do it because it's quick. So what we've done is we've got that file, we've made a change to it. So we now got a test that's working. Okay, so I know it was in framework, projects, MX. So you go there, and each of these projects compile to form a Swift, and these are all these Swifts together make a Flex framework file. So I can just go in there and just compile this application. I just hit Ant, off it goes. And this will take half a minute, maybe not even that. I've set up loads of variables so it knows where everything is and so on. But again, you just take everything and just go through it and release once you go through it. And here we go. So there we go. It ends up creating an excellent Swift and the runtime library as well, 17 seconds. Oh, okay, so now we need to have our Flash build project here, and there's nothing special about this Flash build project. If I just go to properties, it's pointing to the SDK that I just changed. That's one thing you've got to be careful with. If you've got multiple SDKs in there, you quite often end up changing the wrong one and then recompiling it and thinking, why isn't that working? But I know that these two are the same, so that's good. So it just uses that. So then all you have to do to pick up the new SDK is just to recompile this program. So you can just go clean. Or what I normally do is just make a minor change to the file and save it again. And that's enough to trigger a compilation. So there we go, that's run. So let's see if that actually fixes things. There you go. Right, that's a bug fix. Only another 2,000 or something to go. So, now, before that to actually get into the SDK, I have to do a few more steps. I couldn't submit that code right back into the repository straight away. It could be that I've broken something else and not realised it. And the last time I tried to fix this bug, I had it written something else. So let's have a so the first thing you should do, and this is something that anybody contributing to the SDK can do, is to make up, I'll just show you, I think it's the easiest way. So we're back at the base directory here. If we do and check in tests, what that actually does is goes off and runs this suite of simple tests that go through everything that is basically fundamental to Flash Player. It puts up a dialog box, has an alert box, it puts up a data grid, has a list, moves a few things around, it's probably happening in the background. Oh yeah, there we go. It's almost there. Just a second.
Actually, find growth again.
Oh, there we go. So it just goes through a whole lot of basic things, very quickly goes through it, drops and drags and does all the rest, moves some stuff on the screen. Has a color build, moves some things around, does some layout stuff. So if this passes at did, you can be reasonably sure that you haven't broken anything major, and then you can go ahead and check that code in. So at this point, I would actually check the code in, and I'll take that bug and say, yep, it's resolved. Well, I may not do that yet. There is another very large test suite that we also run on a regular basis every night. In fact, it takes about 8 hours to run. Now, I wouldn't run it all myself, but I do know, for example, that as I've become a little bit familiar with this, so there's an Estella directory, and that's where all the tests live. And I can just run it's tests, connects, components, test components, alert. Yeah. So I can say run the alert tests. And that actually does something similar to those check-in tests, but they're a bit more involved, and they're also a bit more targeted. So these alert tests are all the tests about alerts. So we'll just give this a second. While this is just about to run off in the background, does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah.
If you do a pull request, or
Sorry?
when you're going to commit, you make a pull request?
The question was, just for the time, if you commit something, can you make a pull request? We do use Git, and we have a GitHub mirror. Right? So Git and GitHub are two different things. You can make pull requests on the GitHub public repo, and hopefully someone will notice it, and you can basically take a pull request and convert it into a patch, and apply the patch, and do that. So yeah, there is a process of doing it. Currently we can't close off pull requests. we have to ask the person who raised them to close them off. We're looking into see if there's another way of doing that. So, yeah, we certainly do accept all requests. So if you've got any changes or anything you want to fix, that's do so. Any other questions? So, just go there. Almost there. Okay, so let's run through and run there. Well, I don't know if you saw in the background, it was putting up word boxes and doing all that stuff like I did before. So I've actually broken something here. Now, I went ahead and had a look earlier. What this acceleration does is it takes screenshots. It does two things. One thing is that it records all the sort of low-level operations that go on, and it compares that to the previous time that it ran. And if they're all the same, it says good, that's fine. The other thing it does is it takes a screenshot and then it compares the screenshots. Now, those 5 tests, I can go and have a look at the images. One up. So, if I go to further. Still test. Tests. That was hunt. Now I think it's one of the style ones. Yeah, here we go. So this was before the test. This is after the test. Now there's going to be some subtle differences there. I don't think that's particularly bad. I don't know if you can see any changes between those two. I think that one's fine. Let's have a look here. Yeah, same thing. I think that one's fine. So the other one is probably products. They're all good. What does it say? Test fail. So styles. Okay, yeah, it's just those tests there that were in the styles thing. So, you know, I think all we're going to have to do is actually rechecking those images, and then once we've done that, then all the tests will pass again. So that sort of gives you some insight into how it's not that hard to compile the SDK once you've got it set up, and that you can take a bug and very quickly, you can track down what the issue is. You can make a change. You can quickly test what the changes are, and sort of log control that goes into it. Also, when I do a check-in of that bug, everyone on my limit sees that I checked that code in, and they have the option to do so to change. So we have a commit review type process. If someone didn't like that, I can't see why anyone would object to that, but maybe someone would object to it on some other grounds, and then we'd have to have a discussion on the list and possibly eventually sort that out. So that is now into the actual code base. So the next time we make a release, that will be included in the release. So that's sort of what the process is. Any questions? It's going to be short talk. Very short, in fact. What else do you want to see in terms of what are your problems with the SDK that you have in terms of understanding the code, getting it set up? Has anyone actually tried to compile the SDK yet? No? What's your reason for not doing so? Time?
haven't used.
Okay. So, on the project you're working on, do you have any monkey patches? Would you have the time to take those monkey patches, put them in Jira, and submit them? Yeah. Good. Because if you did that, that means your change would become part of the SDK and everyone would get it. So there you go. There's one way you can help out. And we'll test it for you. So now, like, it's good. The easier to make it for us to test your code and make any changes, then it's the more likely that it's going to get into the SDK. So let's have a couple of look at some bugs. What's the one I was talking about there? So okay, Michael Gabriel.
You sure that bug's fixed all the way?
No, I don't believe it is fixed. No. It's open and unresolved. Michael Gabriel put in a patch to the XML list collection, and he knows that inside out. I was thinking about this to him today, actually, so he's going to have to take another look at it, and hopefully it will get fixed very shortly. Yeah, anyway, this bug here, this is a good example of a good bug, and it's a good bug because it tells you exactly what the problem is. It's got more than enough details to replicate it, and it also actually has a nice little test case down the bottom there. So this is probably okay. It's a few weeks old. I would have expected a bug like this to be fixed by now. I guess other people have been doing other things, and I haven't had a chance to look at it. All the conferences and other things are going on as well. So, just want you to get noticed. It's critical. We've had a discussion about it, so I would expect that to be fixed in the next week. So, of that, we'll revert the change. This was the change, by the way, on that bug. So, it was the existing code was actually broken, and what has happened is we've added some code to fix that, but it's obviously changed the behavior of something else in some way. And so when you're working on a very large project like Apache Flex, that can often be the case. Even though we've got 30,000 customer tests, 40,000, something like that, 40,000 customer tests. Now the tests don't catch absolutely everything. They catch most things, but we still need to rely on users reporting bugs to us and telling us that something's broken. And we try not to break these. But occasionally it does happen. It does break it. This is probably the worst example I can think of. So here's another really interesting bug. Do I now have to stay on tier level 1 for handling huge ticks? Would be sad. So I think I know what this bug is, and I think I know a way around it, but again, I just haven't had a chance to get in here and try to fix it up. Anyone that's typing in more 100,000 characters, like this, yeah, it's a bug. It ain't case though. It's like, for all intents and purposes, it's going to work fine. In a few extreme cases, it's not going to be performant. Yes, it would be nice if we fixed, but this was probably not the first bug that I would not on the list and say that it is. The fact that I had that open in my browser and a few other bugs, these are bugs that I tend to fix in the next few weeks. No one else does, so actually a few interesting things around it. It's sort of like, I think of it as like doing a cryptic crossword. You pick a bug and try and look and see if you can find out what it is. And generally in the process you learn something. You actually find. You might not fix the bug. You may not think there's quite a few bugs that I've tried to fix in the end of this and no idea. No, I can't. I don't know what it says it's going to take someone else. sometimes discussions on the list will resolve that, and someone else will have a better idea. Sometimes it's like, oh, no, we'll leave it. See if I can make my time is better spent fixing it. Another way was just so that was a good view. Yeah, okay. So this one here is another good one. Like again, code right there. Like it would be very, very easy for someone to test that. Right? It would take, I could probably copy and paste that here now and test it in front of you to see whether it is a bug or not a bug. Now, trying to fix that may be a little tricky. They may not be. I know the combo box code reasonably well. But there's always something, there's the Spark combo box in particular, there's always had something a bit funny going on in its internals if you try to control things via user input and via programs. And there's been a couple of fixes that have gone in there to try and fix it up, and they work generally good. But maybe there's something with again, maybe a possibly program, which is why I put this one in my list of things to have a look at. Yeah.
A question coming up. Your setup with Flex build, and you want to for this also is there a way for you to send into the code, so put a breakpoint there?
Yeah. There's definitely a way. I'll show you how to do that. Because, so let's put a breakpoint here. So all I've done inside the notes you popped out in a couple of minutes. All I've done inside Flash Builder here is I've just got a Java project, which I've just pointed at my git checkout. That's all you need to do. Then you have to make that compile SDK. And I did that by running Ant, and then running this is the other thing that if you don't know. So there is an IDE directory, and that has a lot of interesting, useful scripts in there. It has add air to SDK. So if you've got an SDK and you want a newer version of air, you can just run that script, give it the version of air that you want, and it will go down and download everything and set it up for you. There's also check all player globals. That goes off and gets every single player global Swift, so you can make your SDK work with any version of the Flash player and test against any version of the Flash player. There's also, now this construct flex for IDE. I'm pretty sure I don't need anything fixed for that. If I just run that, what this does is that it looks on your hard disk for an existing installation of Flash Builder, and it takes all the bits that it needs to become a real SDK, a usable one, and puts them in there. So I'll just run that, and you can see it copies a lot of stuff and changes the XML config files, and that's it. So first you have to build the SDK, and then if you run that script, you've got a working SDK that you can test against. So if you keep the project open like I have here, if I put a breakpoint here, and I run this, and I step into the code, that actually steps into the right version of the code. So it's actually quite easy to, like, I didn't actually show plugging how I found that problem and got into it, but it was through. So yeah, the integration with Flash Builder and SDK. If you don't have that SDK project open, however, it's going to jump to the wrong file. So, and
Java project, which points basically a folder of the kit.
Yeah, that's correct. You just need a Java project that points through again. And it's that simple. And the other thing is, I'll reiterate this, is you don't have to recompile the entire SDK every time. And you have to do single sub-projects, and that makes, saves a lot of time. Yeah, question?
Are there any people contributing to the code base using IntelliJ?
Yes, there are people contributing to the code base using IntelliJ.
Are there, is that project file, like project file, whatever IntelliJ is, are those in as well, or do you get to do additional setup?
I don't know enough about IntelliJ to be able to answer that, but I believe there's nothing extra required. It just works the same. So, there is instructions on our wiki on using IntelliJ with Apache Flex SDK. So the experience should be almost exactly the same, except for it's IntelliJ. Any other questions? So, yeah, so those scripts in the ID directory there are quite useful, and if you don't know about them, you should make a paper head in the irrigation. That's sort of basically all I had. So we're a bit early. So I'm just going to open it for questions again. Questions are on. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's
basically
only.
I think I did put it up there some time ago, but
When you follow wiki, you get up to that point, but not any further. So
I mean, the whole point of this was to show you that we want people to help us out, we want people to contribute, and you can do that in many ways. The easiest way that we can do that is by looking at the existing bug base and telling us whether things that are, say they're broken, are still broken. Right? That is a great one. If there's a bug that doesn't have some sample code there to show the bug, adding that is a great help to us. Fixing the bug would be wonderful. But I sort of understand that, we have more experience in doing that, and sort of know where to look and so forth. But if you can point us in the right direction, like include an RTE, like include the stack, so I think it might be do this in these lines of this code in this class somewhere. Again, that's a great help. Because the one thing we don't have one of collectively is time to do all of this. And we put a large amount of time and effort into it. But it's still always a limiting factor. Yeah, basically. Yeah. Flexes it out. Any other questions? All right, I'll give you another one. Can I grab yourself a cup of coffee or something? If you want to come and talk to me, you've only got an hour or so of the conference left. Come and find me. Happy to chat. Good. Thanks.